She woke up with a ring, a stranger, and no memory of the night that changed everything. The light in the room was annoyingly golden, too perfect, too cheerful for the chaos that was about to unravel. A soft hum of city life pulsed beneath the high-rise hotel suite cars, faint horns, music in the distance. But inside, it was quiet. Unnaturally so. Freya's heart stirred under crisp white sheets, her head pounding like someone had dropped a brick on it. The back of her throat was dry, her lips sticky. Mascara was smudged under her eyes, and her gold sequin dress was twisted awkwardly around her waist. The first thing she noticed before the smell of leftover champagne, was the cold metal band wrapped around her ring finger. A ring. Her eyes blinked open slowly. She lifted her left hand in front of her face. And froze. A diamond ring. Not a toy ring. Not something from a bachelorette party pack. No, this was heavy. Real. Dazzling. A halo-cut stone sitting proudly on a white gold band. Her pulse skyrocketed. What the? She sat up quickly and immediately regretted it. Her head throbbed harder. The hotel suite was unfamiliar. Luxurious. Oversized. Definitely out of her budget. Velvet curtains lined the wall-length windows, and a chilled bottle of champagne sat uncorked on the coffee table, flanked by 2 half-filled glasses. Clothes were scattered across the floor, her shoes by the door, her clutch spilled open near the TV stand. And there was a man in the bed. Freya's breath hitched. He lay facing away from her, shirtless, a muscled back rising and falling with slow, even breaths. His arm was half buried under the pillow, the blanket pooled around his waist. Her brain screamed. She clutched the blanket to her chest and whispered, "Oh no. No, no, no." The man stirred. She scrambled off the bed, her heels clicking against the tile before she found her balance. She tiptoed around the room, heart racing, as she grabbed her phone from the floor. No missed calls. 4% battery. Then she spotted it on the nightstand. A folded paper. She picked it up with trembling hands. Her stomach dropped. Certificate of marriage. Issued in Las Vegas, Nevada. Groom, Albert Williams. Bride, Freya Louise Hart. Date, Friday 11:47 p.m. No. No. This is not happening, she whispered, gripping the edge of the marble dresser for support. The man groaned behind her. She spun around. He was awake now, propped on one elbow, blinking in confusion. His hair was dark and slightly tousled, a line of scruff along his jaw. Strong features. Sharp cheekbones. Bare chest. He was absurdly good-looking. And somehow familiar. His voice was deep and groggy. "You're awake." Freya stared. "Do I know you?" He rubbed his temples. "I was about to ask you the same thing." A long pause followed. They both just stared, trying to make sense of each other. Then his eyes drifted to her hand. "The ring." "Oh my God," he muttered, sitting up straighter. "Is that a wedding ring?" She held it up like a foreign object. "It was on me when I woke up. You have one too." He looked down at his hand. Sure enough, there it was. A matching band. Freya's voice cracked. "We got married." He stood up abruptly, grabbing a shirt from the floor. "No. That can't be right." "Here." She shoved the paper at him. "Read it." He took it, his eyes scanning the document. His face changed. "Albert Williams," he read aloud. "That's me. And I'm Freya Hart. That's me." They locked eyes again. Silent. Processing. "You're serious?" he finally asked. "Do I look like I'm joking?" she snapped. Albert ran his hands through his hair. "How drunk were we?" "I don't remember anything after the second club. I remember tequila. That's about it." She crossed her arms. "Please tell me this is some prank your friends pulled. I came here alone." "Me too." He stared at her. "So, we actually got married last night." Freya collapsed onto the edge of the bed. "This is a disaster." Albert sat opposite her, now wearing a t-shirt. Okay. Deep breaths. "We can fix this. There's got to be a way." "Annulment," she said quickly. "People do it all the time. Vegas weddings, spur of the moment. There's a process." "Right. Annulment," he agreed, nodding. "We just have to act fast. Before anything gets filed officially." Freya stood again and paced. "We can't tell anyone. I just got a new job. This would ruin everything. I haven't even finished my orientation yet." He raised an eyebrow. "What job?" She stopped pacing. "Don't bother asking." He didn't answer. Just blinked. "What?" she asked, suspicious. "Nothing," he replied. Oh God, she whispered. This just keeps getting worse. Albert chuckled softly. It's kind of unbelievable. Freya's eyes widened. Do not laugh. This is not funny. You're right, he said quickly, regaining his composure. You're absolutely right. She sat down again, burying her face in her hands. Albert sat beside her, more serious now. Look, this can stay between us. No one else will know. We will file the paperwork, get it annulled, and move on. Freya nodded slowly. Yes, that's the plan. Another moment passed in silence. Then, quietly, she added, this is the most insane thing that's ever happened to me. Albert looked at her. Same. He offered a hand. Truce. She hesitated, then took it. Truce. She was ready to start her dream job, until she saw who was waiting at the top. The cold morning wind bit through Freya's jacket as she stepped out of the subway onto Fifth Avenue, a coffee in one hand and nerves in the other. She'd rehearsed her introduction at least 20 times on the ride in. Hi, I'm Freya Hart, the new assistant telecom engineer. No, I'm not just an assistant, I'm a future expert in this field. Yes, I worked my way here. No shortcuts. She kept repeating those words in her mind as the massive glass tower of Williams Telecom came into view. The building gleamed in the morning sun, tall and elegant, a symbol of innovation and power. It was her dream company, her dream job. After years of studying late into the night, working 2 jobs to pay rent, taking care of her little brother James when her mother's episodes got bad, this was her moment. Except now, everything was wrong. She glanced down at her left hand. The ring was gone. She had removed it before leaving Vegas, but the memory of it still burned on her skin like a phantom scar. The marriage certificate, tucked deep in her suitcase, still felt like a ticking bomb. One wrong move, and the whole truth would explode into her new life. Freya took a deep breath as she approached the front doors. New city. New job. Forget Vegas. This is your reset. She walked in, greeted the receptionist, and was led through a polished hallway with sleek white walls and glowing blue LED lights. The HR woman chatted cheerfully beside her, oblivious to the storm inside Freya's chest. We're so glad to have you, the woman said. Williams Telecom is more than a workplace, it's a family. You're joining at a very exciting time. Freya nodded, silently wondering what it would feel like to breathe normally again. They stepped into the executive floor. That's the conference room, the woman said. You'll be supporting the upper engineering team, but you'll also attend monthly briefings with senior leadership. You'll meet Mr. Williams eventually. Freya's steps slowed. Mr. Williams? No, it couldn't be. The man from the suite, he wouldn't be. The HR woman opened the boardroom door with a smile. The moment the door swung open, Freya's heart stopped. There, standing at the head of the long marble table, dressed in a custom navy suit, was Albert. Her husband. Her secret husband. The man she married in Vegas. And he was speaking. Let's stay focused on the Q2 roadmap. Operations and product will sync bi-weekly from now on. Also, his eyes lifted. They met hers. Freya froze in the doorway. Albert froze, too. The room fell quiet. And in that moment, Freya Hart's entire life unraveled. Welcome, Albert said smoothly, recovering almost instantly. This is Freya Hart, the new engineering assistant. She'll be joining the transition team. The HR woman gave Freya a gentle nudge. Come on in. Freya forced her legs to move. She's Saturday. He continued the meeting, completely unreadable. But Freya couldn't hear a word he said. Her ears rang with panic. Her stomach flipped. He's the CEO. Of course. Albert Williams. How didn't I realize that? She wanted to faint. The meeting ended. The others filed out, chatting about KPIs and launch dates. Freya stayed frozen in her chair until the room emptied. Only Albert remained. He closed the door. They stared at each other across the conference table. I can't believe this, she whispered. I didn't know, he said quickly. I swear. I saw your name on the employee list yesterday and almost choked. You're my boss. You're my wife, he replied, just as stunned. Temporary wife, she corrected. He nodded, running a hand down his face. Right. We agreed to annul. No drama. We'll keep this private. She stood. No one can know. Agreed. And you'll treat me like every other employee. Albert's expression changed slightly. Of course, he said. But the way his eyes lingered on her said otherwise. Freya moved through the next few days like a robot. Emails. Reports. Introductions. She learned the names of the engineering team, memorized login credentials, set up calendars, smiled politely, took notes, answered calls. But underneath it all was a constant buzz of panic. Albert was everywhere. He'd pass by her desk and nod, sit in on meetings and ask questions. Occasionally, their eyes would meet for a second too long. But nothing was ever said. It was like pretending the sky wasn't blue. They were co-workers, strangers, and secretly married. Every night, Freya collapsed into bed, replaying the weekend in her head. How did I get here? How did I let it go this far? And yet, there was something in the way he looked at her. Not just curiosity, not just guilt, but something warmer, something softer. And that scared her more than anything. On Friday evening, she stayed late to finish the final specs for a telecom blueprint redesign. She hadn't eaten since noon. Her eyes burned. She just wanted to go home. That's when a cup of coffee appeared beside her elbow. She looked up. Albert stood there, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened, holding 2 mugs. You looked like you could use one, he said quietly. She hesitated, then took the cup. Thanks. He didn't leave. He sat on the edge of her desk, watching her scribble over a diagram. You're good at this, he said. Freya snorted. You barely know me. I've read your internship files. Your college capstone. You built a prototype of an internal signal booster from scratch. She looked up, surprised. You went through my file. He shrugged. I always read them. But yours stuck with me. She sipped the coffee. It was exactly the way she liked it. Silence stretched between them. Then Albert leaned in slightly. I'm sorry about all this, he said. The way it started. I know it's a mess. Freya swallowed. I've had worse mornings, she said flatly. He smiled. That damn smile. Don't do that, she told herself. Don't fall for this. This is your boss. This is chaos. But the warmth in her chest told a different story. That night, she lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Her phone buzzed once. A text from Albert. Albert, let's file the annulment next week. I'll set up the paperwork. She stared at the screen. Typed OK. Deleted it. Typed sure. Deleted that too. Finally, she sent nothing. Instead, she placed the phone on her nightstand and turned off the light. But her mind kept spinning. Because for the first time, she wasn't sure she wanted to undo it all. They promised to forget Vegas, but their hearts had other plans. Days turned into weeks. Freya had mastered the art of pretending. She smiled when expected. She gave polished reports. She nodded in meetings and never looked too long at the man sitting at the head of the table. Albert. Her boss. Her secret husband. The man she had kissed under neon lights in Vegas and married in a whirlwind of tequila, music, and reckless laughter. They had agreed it was a mistake. They had agreed it would stay between them. But no matter how much Freya buried herself in work, how focused she tried to be, there were moments. Tiny, dangerous moments. Like when she passed him in the hallway and their shoulders brushed. Or when he handed her a report and their fingers accidentally touched. Or the worst, when their eyes met across the room and something electric passed between them. It was maddening. One Thursday evening, Freya was the last to leave the office. Everyone else had gone home, but she stayed, reviewing tower signal reports for a small rural installation project she'd been assigned. Her fingers ached from typing. Her eyes were sore. She hadn't eaten since lunch. Then she heard the elevator ding. Footsteps. A shadow in the glass wall. She didn't turn around. She already knew who it was. Albert. He appeared at the entrance of her cubicle, holding a takeout bag and a tired smile. You missed dinner again. She blinked up at him. I was just about to finish up. You say that every time, he replied, walking in. So I brought Thai. He placed the bag on her desk and pulled out 2 containers and a pair of wooden chopsticks. Freya hesitated. We said no more late-night run-ins. He shrugged, settling into the chair beside her. It's not a run-in if it's planned. Her eyebrows shot up. You planned this. I had a feeling you'd still be here. She didn't argue. She didn't have the strength. Instead, she reached for the food and opened it. The smell of coconut curry made her stomach grumble. They ate in silence for a few minutes. The office around them was dark except for her desk lamp. Outside, the city glittered with life, but here, it was just them and the quiet. Freya glanced at him. Do you do this often? Eat dinner with my employees, he asked. No. Show up when they are trying to keep boundaries. He smiled slightly. I'm not trying to break them. She laughed once, low. You already did. That night. He didn't respond right away. Then, I think about it too much. Freya's chopsticks paused midair. What? Vegas, he said. I think about it. Not the chaos. Not the marriage certificate. Just you. Her chest tightened. Albert. I know we agreed to end it. I know what we said. But when I see you in meetings, hear your ideas, watch you figure things out so fast it's hard to keep pretending. Freya looked down at her food. I don't want to be the girl who slept her way to a title, she whispered. You didn't, he said firmly. You earned your place here. You're one of the sharpest minds I've seen in a long time. And I'm the idiot who got lucky enough to marry you by accident. She looked at him then. Really looked. For once, his expression wasn't guarded or professional. It was soft, open, vulnerable. I don't know what this is, he continued. But I know it's not nothing. Freya felt a heartbeat in her ears. She stood abruptly. We should go. Albert blinked, standing too. Right. She gathered her things. He followed her to the elevator. They stood side by side as it descended close enough to feel the warmth from each other, but not touching. When they reached the lobby, he turned to her. Freya, I'll see you tomorrow, she said quickly and walked into the night. The next week, she did everything she could to avoid him. She took lunch earlier, declined meeting invites, sent reports through email instead of walking them to his desk. But distance didn't stop the thoughts. She dreamed about Vegas. Not the wedding, but the way he'd looked at her across the hotel bar. Like she was the only person in the room. She remembered the way his hand had settled on her lower back when they laughed at the chapel. How he whispered you first before slipping the ring on her finger. Stupid. Reckless. Romantic. A fairy tale with no future. Then came the staff retreat. One day. Off-site. Casual dress code. A team-building nightmare. Freya tried to stay invisible. She stuck with the engineering interns, ate lunch alone, and avoided eye contact during trust falls. But in the final group activity, a ridiculous balloon tower challenge, she was placed in Albert's team. Of course. He looked at her and smirked. We meet again, Mrs. Williams. She nearly choked. The others laughed, thinking it was a joke. Freya glared at him. Don't start. Relax. I'm only good at towers, he said, stacking the balloons. You're the CEO. You're not even supposed to be participating. Perks of owning the company. Despite herself, she laughed. They won the challenge. Of course. And as their team cheered and posed for pictures, Albert leaned close and whispered, You smile more when you're around people who don't know our secret. Freya didn't answer. But she didn't stop smiling either. That night, after the retreat, she received a text. Albert, you busy? She stared at it. Freya, depends. Why? Albert, there's a jazz band playing downstairs at the lounge. Thought you might want to celebrate your engineering solution win with a drink. She didn't reply. But 20 minutes later, she walked into the hotel lounge. He was there, waiting. They didn't talk about work. They didn't talk about Vegas. They talked about music and movies, and Freya's little brother James, who wanted to build robots but couldn't sit still long enough to focus. Albert listened, eyes soft. Then he shared his past, his pressure, his late father who had built Williams Telecom from a garage, and his mother who still called every Sunday to ask if he was dating someone normal. Freya laughed. Albert stared at her for a long time. What? She asked. He shook his head. Nothing. You're just not what I expected. In the best way. She lowered her gaze. Don't say things like that. Why? Because I might start to believe you. Albert leaned forward. Then let me give you a reason to. Back in her room that night, Freya lay awake. She still wore the ring. Not on her hand, but on a chain around her neck. Hidden, but always there. Some secrets don't stay buried. Especially when love is involved. The warning signs had been there. The stolen glances. The soft smiles. The way Albert always asked for Freya's input even when it wasn't her project. The way she always seemed to know exactly how to calm a meeting when tensions ran high. But they had been careful. At least, they thought they had. Until one Monday morning, the world changed. It began with a sound. A collective gasp. Freya had just walked into the office kitchen when she noticed people huddled around a phone. Whispers filled the room. One woman dropped her coffee. Another turned to look at Freya, then quickly looked away. Freya paused. Her pulse spiked. Then she heard it. It's all over Twitter. The CEO married his assistant in Vegas. There's a photo. At the chapel. They look wasted. She didn't have to guess. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out with trembling fingers. A link from Annie. Headline: CEO Albert Williams secretly marries young assistant in wild Vegas wedding. There it was. A high-resolution photo. Freya. In her gold dress. Laughing. Champagne in hand. Albert beside her, his arm around her waist. The glowing neon sign of Forever Chapel behind them. The post already had over 30,000 shares. Freya's stomach dropped. The hallway buzzed with whispers as she walked past. In the elevator, people stared and then glanced away when she looked up. She reached her desk and sat down, her hands frozen on her keyboard. Then she felt it. Albert's presence. She looked up. He stood in front of her desk, jaw clenched, eyes stormy. My office. Now. She followed him. He closed the door behind her and pulled the blinds. For the first time, his calm cracked. Someone leaked it, he said. I don't know how, but it's out. No kidding, she replied, sinking into the chair. Everyone's looking at me like I murdered someone. I've already spoken to PR. We'll issue a statement. About what? That your assistant was your drunken mistake. Albert turned sharply. Don't say that. Isn't that what they are thinking? He ran his hands through his hair. Freya, this is a mess. Contracts are at risk. Investors are calling. The board is demanding an emergency meeting. She stood. And I'm the one they'll blame. No. I'll protect you. She looked at him, heart racing. Don't you see? That's the problem. If you protect me, they'll think I needed protection. Like I seduced you. Like I don't deserve to be here. Albert moved closer. You do deserve to be here. You're the best person on that team. But no one will believe that now, she said, her voice breaking. They stared at each other. Then Freya whispered, I should resign. Albert's face hardened. You're not leaving. Tears welled in her eyes. It's not about me. It's about the firm. Your reputation. You built this from scratch. I won't be the reason it crumbles. You're not. Please, she said. Don't make this harder. Albert opened his mouth. Then closed it. She packed her things that afternoon. Not everything, just enough. She didn't tell anyone goodbye. Annie called 3 times. Freya didn't answer. She couldn't speak without crying. By the time she walked out the revolving door of Williams Telecom, she was shaking. But she kept walking. And didn't look back. The internet exploded. The tabloids tore into her. Young assistant bags billionaire CEO in drunken wedding. From coffee runs to marriage certificate. Sleeping to the top or just slipping. The comments were worse. Gold digger. Classic move, hook the boss. How long before she sells her story? Freya turned off her phone. She stopped checking email. She went home to her mother's small house on the edge of the city, where everything was quiet and the curtains were always drawn. She slept too much, ate too little, and tried not to feel. Meanwhile, Albert was drowning. The company was in full PR crisis mode. Shareholders threatened lawsuits. 3 major clients temporarily suspended contracts. The board held an emergency vote. He kept his job, but barely. His calendar was full, but his mind was empty. Every room in the building reminded him of her. Her laugh. Her scent. The way she used to bring coffee to meetings 5 minutes early and sit quietly, absorbing everything. He missed her. But more than that, he realized something terrifying. He loved her. And he had never said it. The press conference came 2 days later. Albert stood at a podium in front of dozens of reporters, flashbulbs going off like fireworks. My name is Albert Williams, he said. And yes, 2 months ago, during a trip to Las Vegas, I married Freya Hart. The room buzzed. But let me be clear, he continued. Freya was not my assistant at the time. She was not hired because of our marriage. In fact, I didn't even know who she was until we returned. A few reporters scoffed. Albert pressed on. Freya is one of the most brilliant minds I've ever worked with. She got this job on her own merit. And I take full responsibility for the mess that followed. He paused. Freya has since chosen to step away from her position. Not because she did anything wrong, but because of the judgment she faced, judgment she didn't deserve. He ended with one final line. And if I could go back to that night in Vegas, I'd still marry her. But I'd make damn sure she knew I loved her before the cameras ever did. Freya didn't watch the press conference live. Her mom did. And played it for her later. Freya sat on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, a bowl of soup untouched in her lap. She watched Albert on screen, calm, direct, unapologetic. And then she heard it. I'd still marry her. I love her. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Not because it fixed anything, but because it meant everything. That night, she lay in bed staring at the ceiling. The next morning, there was a knock on the door. Her mother answered. Freya stayed in bed. Until she heard her mom call out, Freya, you have a visitor. She pulled on a sweater and stepped into the living room. Albert stood there, hair damp from the rain, shirt wrinkled. No driver, no bodyguard, no tie, just him. He held a soaked bouquet of lavender. Freya froze. He smiled awkwardly. You always said lavender was your favorite. You remembered. I remember everything, he said. A long silence passed. You didn't have to come, she said softly. I know. You already did damage control. You already defended me. Why are you here? Albert stepped closer. Because I couldn't sleep. Couldn't work. Couldn't think. Not without you. Freya's throat tightened. You left. I thought I had to, she whispered. To protect you. To protect what you built. I don't care about the building. I care about the girl who helped me build something real. She swallowed, then asked the one question that had haunted her. Why did you fight for the company, but not for me? Albert's voice cracked. Because I didn't think I deserved you. He dropped to one knee, not with a ring, but with both hands open. I don't want to undo us. I want to understand what we could be. Her knees wobbled. Her breath caught. And then she whispered, okay. Just like that, the chaos became something softer. When love is real, you don't run from the fire, you walk through it together. The next few weeks weren't easy. There were still stays when they went out together. Whispers. Headlines that refused to die. But they stayed low. Stayed quiet. Went to couples therapy. Took long walks in parks instead of restaurants. Talked more. Sometimes they argued. Sometimes Freya cried. Sometimes Albert admitted he was still afraid of failure, of the press, of saying the wrong thing. But through it all, they stayed together. Not because it was perfect, but because it was worth it. 6 months later, the sun poured through the windows of a modest office space in Midtown Manhattan. Paint cans sat in corners. Blueprint sketches lined the whiteboard. The air smelled of fresh carpet and new beginnings. Freya walked through the unfinished hallway in ripped jeans and a polo shirt, hard hat tucked under her arm. She was smiling. Behind her, Albert followed, his sleeves rolled up, clipboard in hand. Their company, AF Telecommunications. Not his. Not hers. Theirs. They were building it together from the ground up. A firm that prioritized rural expansion. Youth development. Clean energy alternatives. No gatekeeping. No legacy hires. No secrets. That morning, Freya finished signing her last intern contract offer and leaned back in her chair. The sunlight caught her necklace. Albert walked in with 2 iced coffees. She looked up at him and grinned. You always bring me coffee when I'm about to pass out. He chuckled. It's my secret weapon. He handed her the cup and noticed the glint of her ring. Still on her finger. Still shining. He raised his eyebrow. You're still wearing it. She shrugged. I like the look. He leaned in, his voice low. You love me. She sipped her coffee. I tolerate you. Albert laughed, pressing a kiss to her forehead. That night, after dinner and old jazz records in their apartment, they sat by the window overlooking the skyline. The city lights blinked like stars. Freya was curled up beside him on the couch, feet tucked under his leg. I still can't believe how it all started, she murmured. One night in New York, he replied. No, she said, smiling. One night in Vegas. He nodded. Right. Vegas. But we were already those people, Freya. You were already amazing. I just hadn't met you yet. She smiled. Then teased. Best mistake you ever made. Albert looked at her. No. Just the beginning of everything, right? They started as strangers in a whirlwind and ended as partners in purpose. The sun filtered through wide glass windows, casting long beams of morning light across blueprints, open laptops, and take-out coffee cups. The scent of fresh paint still clung to the air. The logo on the reception wall was finally up. AF Telecommunications. The A for Albert. The F for Freya. 6 months ago, this space had been nothing more than an idea. A possibility whispered over a late-night dinner and cemented by a mutual promise to rebuild something honest together. Now, it was real. The walls were lined with corkboards filled with hand-drawn designs and fiber-optic layouts. Young engineers buzzed through the halls, most of them hired from overlooked colleges or underfunded internship programs, the kind Freya had come from. In the middle of it all, Freya Hart, no longer the assistant, no longer the scandal, walked through the open workspace wearing a fitted navy jumpsuit, clipboard in hand, headset on. She was confident, calm, respected, not just because of her last name, but because she had earned it. In her new office, a cozy space with plants on the windowsill and a framed photo of her mom and brother, Freya reviewed the final numbers for the month. Profits were modest, but growth was steady. Their outreach program had just launched a satellite mentorship in 3 underdeveloped towns. People were paying attention. A knock at the door. Albert stepped in, 2 smoothers in hand. Coconut ginger or mango kale? Freya gave him a look. Why do you even ask? I hate kale. He grinned. I hold on to hope. She took the coconut ginger, sipping it slowly. They stood together for a moment, watching their team through the glass. You realize, Albert said softly, this started with a hangover and an accidental wedding. Freya smiled. A diamond ring and 2 people too drunk to remember their vows. And now look at us. He pointed toward a whiteboard listing future projects. Affordable broadband to villages. Community-based signal expansion. Solar-powered mobile towers. Freya nodded. Real change. From real people. He looked at her. I'm proud of you, you know. She turned to face him. I'm proud of us. He reached out and tucked a stray curl behind her ear. Still married, he murmured. By choice this time, she replied, holding up her left hand. The ring still sparkled. But now, it meant something deeper. Not a mistake. Not a secret. But a vow they kept renewing day by day, decision by decision. That evening, they held an open house launch at the new office. The lobby buzzed with guests, community leaders, investors, former professors, even interns from Freya's college program. There were banners, music, even lavender cocktails in honor of Freya's favorite flower. Freya stepped up to the microphone, Albert beside her. She took a breath. 6 months ago, she began. I walked away from a job I loved because the world told me I didn't belong. That I hadn't earned my seat. That my story didn't fit the mold. She looked around. But I'm still here. And not because someone gave me power, but because I realized I already had it. My voice. My skills. My story. People applauded. She smiled. And now, this company, our company, is going to build not just technology, but opportunity. For people like me. For people like you. She turned to Albert. He took her hand. And together, they raised their glasses. To second chances. And the stories no one saw coming. Later that night, they walked through the quiet building, alone. Shoes off, jackets off, hand in hand. Freya stopped in front of a wall that still hadn't been painted. Can we leave this one blank? She asked. Albert raised an eyebrow. Why? For the next chapter, she said. Whatever that looks like. He smiled, kissing her temple. One night in New York, he whispered, ruined everything I planned. Freya leaned into him. And gave us everything we didn't know we needed.